Part 15. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 141. At this time, the atmosphere at the scene fell into a brief dead silence. All the ghosts sat down, a little embarrassed. I originally thought of giving the new class teacher a slap in the face, and even eating him directly, but I didn't expect that I got scolded like crazy. Okay, let's start class. Shenjian's face was expressionless. But in his heart he was thinking about the requirements of the hidden mission. And with so many evil ghosts present, he couldn't bear to catch a few of them. Haha, teacher. Suddenly, a female ghost in the front row spoke. Compared with the terrifying looks of the other students, she looked much normal, and her facial features were very delicate. But if you stare at her face for a long time, you will get a weird feeling. Her whole face is very incoherent, her nose, mouth, eyes, every part is beautiful, but the combination is weird, as if, this is a face put together. What's wrong? Shenjian frowned. The school rules only allow punishment, not corporal punishment. Your behavior of asking him to run 20 laps is defined as corporal punishment. This is not allowed. Teacher, don't you know the school rules of our Blood Moon High School? Are you really a new student? Is the teacher here? The piece-together ghost said coldly. A group of fierce ghosts also showed their dangerous glare again. If this is a fake teacher, then they will tear this human alive at all costs. Hear this. Shenjian was startled. Then he gave the pieced-together female ghost an approving look. Indeed, corporal punishment is too light. How can this be considered punishment? Punishment must be done well. But teacher, do you know the punishment method here? The patchwork ghost smiled even more sinisterly. Shenjian also smiled. As my first punishment in this school, let me choose a more elegant death, punishment. Said. Shenjian took out the huge ghost sickle. Come on, the one with the grin, come here and take a stab from me. Shenjian said kindly. Grinning ghost. The grinning ghost who made the noise at first gritted his teeth and looked at the girls in the front row. Thank you very much. Let me get stabbed out of thin air. Teacher, I didn't mean to do it on purpose. I just saw that you didn't bring the lesson plan, so I kindly reminded you. Could you be gentler in your actions later? The grinning ghost begged for mercy. Shenjian smiled kindly. I'm not a good, bad person, how could I do something so harsh? I'll just go through the motions later. I'll touch you lightly with the knife and relax. This is all normal. Hear this. The grinning ghost breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, he laughed fiercely in his heart. Okay. If you punish me like this, you will be dead later. At this time, Shenjian stretched out a hand and held his head. Grinning ghost? Didn't you say just a light touch? Why are you holding the back of my head? He had a very bad premonition in his heart and said in panic, Human, what do you mean? It's okay. I'll block their view so they can make fake moves. Shenjian gave him a don't worry look. The grinning ghost didn't dare to believe it this time and started to struggle. Shenjian's face was expressionless. He raised the ghost sickle and chopped it down. A head was immediately dismembered and rolled to the ground. Students! Damn it! You are so cruel. One cut is just one cut, and there is no chance of a second cut. All the fierce ghosts were dumbfounded. This is definitely a real teacher. This moment. There is no more evil ghost to continue to doubt. Shenjian threw the body into the soul-binding bag and smiled. This grinner is really weak. He can't even bear my sword. All the evil ghosts. The ghosts are all gone, let's just talk about it. They bared their teeth as they looked at their fellow beings being put into sacks. Do it all. Shenjian glanced around. As your class teacher, in this first class today, Let me focus on the school spirit and discipline. It's you first. Shen Jian pointed at the female ghost who made a sound. Patchwork ghost? I just had a little doubt. As a fierce ghost, he speaks in class without raising his hands, despises teachers, and has no respect for his elders. How can he be okay with this when he grows up? Shen Jian took out the morning stick and said with dangerous eyes, I must teach you what it means to respect teachers. The words fell. Shen Jian raised the morning stick and hit it. Ah! The severe pain made the patchwork ghost wail. Why are you yelling so loudly? Those who don't know better think I'm abusing you in class. You're slandering the teacher. You'll be punished with an extra level of punishment and you'll be given 10 sticks. Shen Jian became more and more excited as he played. By the time he was beaten 15 times, the ghost had completely fainted. Shen Jian put it in the sack as if nothing had happened. The devils were stunned. Gan. As soon as he took office, he arrested 2 role models and brutally tortured them. I'm afraid you are not a teacher, but a devil. All the fierce ghosts were sitting upright, with their backs straightened, for fear that they would be spotted if something went wrong. The 2 players in the same classroom were completely confused. When was the ghost so easily dealt with? He was just a teacher, but he could let Li Gui hear about it so much that he didn't even dare to fight back even if he was beaten or scolded. This is incredible. When will players be able to show off their power in horror games like this? Shen Jian's performance refreshed their understanding of thriller games. There is a feeling that we are playing a different game with him. Clatter. 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 Heavy footsteps spread through the classroom. Shen Jian walked around and finally came to a squinting devil, and suddenly scolded, How do you do this in class? Your eyes almost fell to the desk mate next door. The teacher is still there, but you are so unfocused. If the teacher leaves, don't you want to fly? Stand up for me. The squinting ghost said unconvinced, Teacher, I am facing the blackboard, and I always do this, and other teachers have never said anything. What tone are you talking to the teacher like this? If you dare to contradict the teacher in class, wouldn't you want to kill someone out of society? The crime will be increased. Shen Jian said in a cold voice, You will be punished with 20 sticks, all at once. Cross-eyed ghost? He reacted. The human in front of him wanted him dead. I'll fight you. Violent yin qi spread out, and the slant-eyed ghost suddenly rushed forward. Boom! Shen Jian picked up the morning stick and swung it. There was only the sound of banging and banging in the whole classroom. Every time they hit it, these evil ghosts trembled for 3 seconds. Terrible! It's too scary. You dare to attack the teacher. It seems I'm right. If you don't teach you well today, you will be a gangster when you go out tomorrow. Shen Jian said and gave 10 more sticks. 30 sticks were collected. That's all. A unique lesson has come to an end. Shen Jian was about to go out. A familiar voice came. Teacher Shen, how was your first class? I saw the tall ghost vice principal walking slowly in 20-centimeter high heels. The chest is deliberately raised. The figure that was already ready to explode seemed even more ready to explode. Shen Jian even wondered if he heard the sound of the buttons struggling to keep from flying off. In terms of appearance, the ghost vice principal is worse than the ghost mother-in-law, but in terms of figure, the ghost mother-in-law is completely defeated. Seeing Shen Jian's eyes, vice principal ghost's smile became even brighter. What's wrong? Is it difficult to manage? With that said, vice principal ghost looked into the classroom. Startled slightly. Because she saw students sitting upright and studying inside, with focused and serious expressions. Even when the bell rang, no students left their seats. The whole class was silent in a strong learning atmosphere. Something is wrong. Even key classes cannot make students study seriously during breaks. How did you do it? She asked curiously. Shen Jian looked calm. It's not for any special reason. The main reason is that all these students respect their teachers. Respect for teachers. That's right. Shen Jian casually grabbed a front row ghost and said with a stern look, "Tell me, why are you studying so seriously?" The unlucky guy who was caught. "Because you were so careless that I sent you to see the Buddha." "Do I dare not be serious?" But under Shen Jian's aggressive eyes, he swallowed these words and said instead, "Teacher Shen's class has taught us some philosophy of life. We have decided not to continue to degenerate and strive to enter the key class next year." The ghost vice principal nodded. "Yes, Teacher Shen is indeed a gold medal teacher. I am relieved to leave the elite class to you. I thought you would not be able to adapt to the environment here." Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. "How could that be? I like to mingle with students the most. But I'm curious about something. Where did the black stockings on your legs go, and by? I saw them even in the morning." The ghost vice principal was stunned when he heard this. Unexpectedly, this little man observed very carefully. But now she is not only not wearing black stockings, but also suffering. A gust of cold wind blew, and she shivered all over, feeling chilly. As for where it's cooler, it's hard to say. But as the vice principal, she quickly came to her senses and said with a smile, "You are observing so carefully. Do you want Aunt Bai to give you one? It's the warm kind." Shen Jian's eyes moved. Ghost vice principal. Current status, excited, excited. Favorability, 42, friendly. After thinking about it, Shen Jian also echoed, "Okay, then Aunt Bai, please wear another one. I just need it." Vice Principal Ghost was shocked by Shen Jian's bold attitude. But looking at Shen Jian's fiery eyes, the rejection in her mouth never came out. "Okay. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace." Author, Shi Yubuletin Chi Gua. Chapter 142. Office of the Vice Chancellor. Bai Zayasha regretted it after leading Shen Jian here. She enjoyed the man's hot gaze, but she mostly entertained herself. This was the first time she proposed something like today. "Aunt Bai, it's getting cold, hurry up." And Shen Jian was also urging. Leave her no extra time to think. He could only take out a pair of black pantyhose from the table and put them on his legs. Bo! It was the sound of socks slapping against thighs. The ghost vice principal stretched the stockings on the toes, then let go, and the stockings rebounded, making such a sound. Shen Jian's eyes moved. Ghost vice principal. Current status, happy, confused, confused. Favorability, add 8, 50 familiarity. My favorability didn't go down, but went up. Shen Jian was thoughtful. For these special XP enthusiasts, it is difficult for them to resist as long as they are targeted in this area. This can be seen from the half-hearted behavior of the ghost vice principal. If you were an ordinary evil ghost, this goodwill would at most make the other person think you can make friends with them, and the relationship would at most be equivalent to a familiar friend. Would you ask a simple friend to wear black stockings to show you? Even if you dare to mention it, the other party will just curse you and slap you twice, and you will become a passerby from then on. The same goes for Li Gui's favor. If you are not a relative or an acquaintance, the effect of 50 points of favorability is limited to this. However, in the eyes of the ghost vice principal, his thinking look became a sign of obsession, which was still naked. After discovering this, she smiled with satisfaction, bent down with a strange feeling in her heart, and gently touched it with her delicate jade hands. "Well, your Aunt Bai's charm is still the same as before. Do you like it? Give it a try." Shen Jian nodded. The ghost vice principal showed a hint of shyness, and slowly revealed a pair of long black stocking legs. "Come out of the office." Shen Jian couldn't help but sigh. Yuji's silk stockings were a perfect match. I don't know if Aunt Bai is married, otherwise the young woman's stocking style would be even more arousing to people's imagination. While thinking, he passed through a long corridor. I saw a strange scene in a classroom. The classroom was dark with no lights on. There were many ghosts sitting on the seats. There was also a female teacher on the podium who had her mouth sealed and her eyes gouged out. She was giving a lecture. No sound came out of her mouth, and what was written on the blackboard was not chalk, but a severed finger. All the evil ghosts were sitting upright. Because the school rules of Blood Moon High School stipulate that if Li Gui fails to obey the rules at all, the supervising teacher can enforce the school rules. Even if they are all evil ghosts, they don't want to bear the punishment mentioned in the rules. Shen Jian stopped by the window and inspected the situation. On the corner of the blackboard, the name and time of the course are written. And this section? It's physical education class. If you don't have a good physical education class, you have to listen to math. Is physical education class no longer fun? Shen Jian shook his head. Suddenly, the female teacher seemed to have discovered something. She glanced at the window on the side of the corridor and saw a figure looking at the classroom. She suddenly laughed silently, the corners of her sewn mouth twitched, and her empty eyes squirmed, looking extremely terrifying. The female teacher stood up and walked towards the door. Loitering outside the classroom during class time is a serious violation of school and class rules. As a teacher, how could she allow this to happen? In the dark classroom, as the female teacher moved around, the other ghosts also noticed all this and looked over one after another. Their pale fish eyes all looked at Shen Jian by the window. A cold atmosphere is permeating the air. Shen Jian's face was expressionless. Went over at the same time. Before the female teacher could speak, Shen Jian had already preempted the question, "Teacher, isn't this class my class? Why are you here?" "Female teacher?" She froze. It was impossible to tell Shen Jian's identity for a while. Immediately afterwards, Shen Jian said with an unkind expression, "And how did I hear that you are saying that I am sick?" The female teacher was even more confused. "Use a severed finger to write the message, are you?" "I'm the new physical education teacher this semester." "Teacher, don't you recognize me?" Shen Jian said teasingly. "That's right. After all, as a physical education teacher, I have been weak and sick since I was a child. It's normal that I can't attend class." "Of course, teacher, you have never seen me." The female teacher listened, first stunned for a moment, and then suddenly realized. It turned out to be a physical education teacher, so I had never seen anything normal. After all, the physical education teacher's class belongs to all teachers. But soon, the female teacher reacted. He looked at Shen Jian with dissatisfaction. The new physical education teacher just doesn't understand the rules. If you don't teach physical education and get sick, why are you here? What, you want to grab a class? Of course, the female teacher did not say this, but discussed, "Let's do this, PE teacher, I've already attended half of this class, and it's not appropriate to finish class now. How about this? You can take my class next time. How about picking a time period from the table to attend class? Please help me now and get sick, so that I can dispel the enthusiasm of these evil ghosts and concentrate on listening to the class." Shen Jian. The subject teacher is in the usual routine, and the PE teacher is sick. Unexpectedly, this fine tradition has developed into the horror world. They have all become evil ghosts, and they still get sick at every turn. Shen Jian shook his head and said with a very tough attitude, "No, I haven't been to a class since the beginning of the school year. I'm afraid that all the cute devils like me don't know me as a teacher. I won't let you go no matter what you say this time." As soon as these words came out, the female teacher's face suddenly turned ugly. There seemed to be a stern expression in the empty eye sockets. She stared at Shen Jian closely. "Let's go out and talk." Shen Jian did not refuse. The two of them turned around the corridor and came to the entrance of the corridor. After avoiding the sight of the ghosts, the female teacher's terrifying face seemed to smile ferociously. "Human, I hope you will think carefully about whether you want me to tell them that you are sick or that you are dead." Shen Jian was slightly surprised in his eyes. He was wrong. Teachers in the horror world are far crazier than in the real world. Hear this. It was even less possible for Shen Jian to spoil her. He sneered and said, "You really think that my physical education teacher has no one, right? Today I will let you see what it means to be a physical education teacher who is weak and sick." 5 seconds later, Shen Jian walked out of the corner, carrying a sack. There was a hint of disdain in his eyes. "I really thought physical education teachers were vegetarians." "Do it all." Shen Jian sent a message. "The King of Hell at Qinzi, how many known ghost stories are there in Blood Moon High School? It is best to have records to confirm that there are evil spirits. Qinzi." About 10 minutes later. Looking at the chat interface full of information, Shen Jian identified the location. There are 7 days for the main mission, and Shen Jian is not in a hurry. In his opinion, as long as the Ghost Vice Principal Guide is completed, the so-called taboo ghost stories can surface. The key point now is to improve the campus environment. What is improvement? That would naturally make the strange legends of Blood Moon High School disappear one by one. It will not affect other people's physical and mental health. So his task is simple. Sweeping away ghost stories. Provide students with a clean campus environment. The one closest to him was called the Cursed Toilet. Legend has it that a girl drowned in the toilet. Later, other girls who were related to her received a note with ghost-like characters written on it, which seemed to have been dug out one by one with fingernails. On the night she received the note, the girl died in the toilet at the end of the corridor in a horrifying manner. On the third day, a third girl with whom he had a close relationship also died. Since then, girls have received curse notes from time to time, and those who receive the curse will die inexplicably in the toilet at the end. At this moment, Shen Jian appeared in this toilet. This toilet seemed to have been abandoned for many years. It didn't have the smell of ordinary toilets, but there was always a rotten smell in the air, which made people very uncomfortable. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. Inexplicable drops of water dripped from the ceiling. The sound was not loud, but it was very clear in the dead silence. All compartments are closed. Shen Jian thought for a while. Knocked on the door very politely. "Is there anyone? Is there anyone in there?" The cursed toilet story requires receiving the cursed note before it will take effect. Shen Jian does not comply with the triggering rules. So nothing happened. Inside the abandoned toilet, only Shen Jian's knock on the door and greetings echoed. This move. In a certain compartment, a female ghost wearing a white dress and a pale face was in a daze. "Male. What do you want to do as a man in the women's restroom?" And knocking on the toilet cubicle, "What is this? Do you expect the people squatting in the pit to stand up and open the door for you? Or do you want to be alone and do a one-piece squat?" Shen Jian's operation completely confused the female ghost. At this time, when the first toilet was opened and no one was inside, Shen Jian started knocking on the second stall again. Knock. 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 The heavy knock on the door sounded again. Toilet female ghost? This time she couldn't hold it any longer. Forget it about a boy going to the women's restroom. After all, people have 3 urgent needs. Knocking on the door can barely be interpreted as polite. But damn, you found an empty toilet and didn't use it, but continued to knock on the door. What do you want to do? Do you really want to find a brother who will share will and woe with you? It's too perverted. Thinking of this, The female ghost's pupils suddenly dilated. Yes. Isn't this a perversion? The female ghost in the toilet couldn't help but feel a little nervous and uneasy in her heart. She has seen many of the same kind. But this was the first time I encountered a pervert. Although she is a female ghost, she is still a woman after all, and she will panic when she encounters perverts. What to do? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 143. Soon. The second compartment was also knocked open. Shenjian took a look and said with some regret, "Aren't you here too? It's such a beautiful weather, why doesn't anyone come to squat with us?" The female ghost looked panicked. Her guess was indeed correct, this was a pervert with dirty goals. The sound of knocking sounded again. The third and fourth compartments were also empty. Shenjian set his sights on the compartment door at the end. It's over. He's not here to find me, is he? Everything before was just toying with me. The cursed female ghost felt that the hairs all over her body were exploding, and her nervous hands were trembling. She blocked the door tightly to prevent this pervert from entering. Otherwise, no one knows what extreme behavior a pervert who broke into the women's restroom would do to her. However, to the surprise of the cursed ghost, Shenjian did not choose to knock again, but entered the third compartment. The cursed ghost pursed his lips and squatted on the toilet, not daring to breathe. A faint voice also sounded next door. "Hey, I squatted in a pit in the middle of the day, but I couldn't find any squatting friends. This place has been abandoned for so many years, there must be no ghosts." Hearing Shenjian's words, the cursed ghost couldn't help but be stunned. It turned out that she had misunderstood. What the other person said was just a squatting friend, not a squatting pit in a toilet. She was scared to death. At the same time, the cursed ghost also reacted. "This is not the same kind, but a human being." Snored. "I am a ghost. Why are you afraid of a human pervert entering the women's restroom?" He, sometimes, the more you are afraid of something, the more likely it will happen. The cursed ghost smiled sinisterly in his heart, his limbs twisted exaggeratedly, and he lay on the ground like a spider. His pale face came to the gap between the two compartments, which was about a fist high. There was a sinister smile on her face, and a hint of expectation. She could already imagine that she would make a sound to attract the human being and then stick her head out. The scene would definitely be explosive. Abandoned toilets, weird smiles oozing from people, and scary faces that suddenly appear. Humans with weak hearts would probably be frightened to death. Hey. The cursed ghost couldn't help but want to laugh. She slowly stretched her face over, ready to make a sound at any time to attract this human being. However, when her eyes moved to the gap under the partition, she suddenly found something covering her sight. It was round and rotating, a bit like human eyeballs, etc. Thinking of this, the cursed ghost's heart skipped a beat, and when he took a closer look, he found a human face clearly visible under the gap in the cubicle. His eyes were wide open, staring at him unblinkingly. A feeling of horror came to my heart. The human was lying to her. He didn't go into the toilet stall to squat at all, but kept spying on her. "Do you want to poop together?" The human face opened its mouth. Ah. The cursed ghost retreated crazily, frightened by this horrifying scene and separated from its walls. The whole ghost huddled up in the corner. Ghost. There's a ghost. Shenjian smiled silently. This ghost seemed a little scared. He just used the other party's method to deal with her, and was immediately frightened. How could he be such a ghost with this kind of psychological quality? Unqualified. After thinking for a while, Shen Jian said, "GGG, don't be afraid, I'm not a good person." Hear this. The curled up cursed ghost sneered, "A pervert would never admit that he was a pervert. Bad people never admit that they are bad people. Etc. The other party seems to be saying that he is not a good person? Cursed ghost. You are so damn honest. This is something that the cursed ghost can't handle. Sincerity is always a sure shot. Others admit that they are not good people, so how can she condemn them? But after the initial fright, the cursed ghost slowly came back to his senses again. It's not right. The other person is just a human being. And I am a ghost. Why should I be afraid of his scary tricks? Mistakes. This is just a mistake. The cursed ghost comforted herself, maybe she had become a lot more sensitive and her mental quality had deteriorated a lot because of her long stay in the abandoned toilet. But after this scare, she got back on her feet. She is a campus legend. It is the source of the curse note. How could she be afraid of a human being? If word of this gets out, she won't have to hang out in the scary world. When he thought of this, the cursed ghost's expression turned vicious. Ho ho ho, you like to scare ghosts, right? The cursed ghost's waist suddenly arched, and then twisted its arms and legs at an impossible angle, crawling up with its back facing down and crawling on all fours. Throughout the process, there was a constant crackling sound of bones. The yin energy in her body continued to increase, and soon passed its usual peak and reached a new stage. This is thanks to that human being who inspired her to become stronger. She decided to use the most cruel method, rushing out of the toilet next door, cutting the human body into thousands of pieces, and stuffing it into the toilet. Boom! The cursed ghost burst open the door angrily. He opened the door of the compartment again, and when he was about to show a scary smile, his grimace froze. Cubicle, no one. Where are people? Where is a person that big just now? There was no sound of pushing the door, no sound of climbing, no sound of walking. How did that human being escape from the compartment? The secret room disappearance case? Still. The cursed ghost trembled in his heart again, no way. Did she encounter something supernatural? From beginning to end, there was no one in the cubicle toilet. Who was that person who was talking to me just now and peeping at her with his eyes? Gilug. The cursed ghost turned even paler. The toilet is haunted. She was completely dumbfounded. She is a ghost, so what is going on in the bathroom? The cursed ghost poked her head out of the cubicle with a bit of horror, and found that the other toilet doors were closed. She was slightly startled, and then the corners of her mouth split open and she revealed a sinister smile. So you want to play hide and seek with me, naughty little naughty boy? Then we have an agreement. If I catch you, you will die miserably. Boom. Boom. The cursed ghost violently pushed open the compartment door. His eyes were focused on the last room. The ferocious smile on his face could no longer be concealed, because this was the only place in the entire bathroom where people could hide. She concluded that the human was here. Boom. The door was violently pushed open. Shen Jian is indeed inside. Before the cursed ghost could speak, Shen Jian laughed strangely. You finally found me, so I can, he he he. The words fell. The big hand attached to the yin energy grabbed the cursed ghost's neck and dragged her into the toilet together with her feet. During this period, the cursed ghost tried to resist. But to no avail. That human power was like a mountain, she couldn't shake it at all. And she found that the closer she was to this human being, the harder it was to mobilize the yin qi in her body. That grip felt like the most terrifying supernatural being in the world was suppressing her. Every time she activates the yin qi, it's like white snow encountering magma. Not even 1% of the yin qi can be used, and it often melts away within 10 centimeters of Shen Jian's body. This kind of supernatural power that dissolves everything is so terrifying. It's like this human being is invincible and cannot be hurt by yin qi. In this extreme gap, she even lost the thought of resisting. Ghost. Ghost King? Could that human being be a Ghost King? Woohoo! The cursed ghost screams. She just said it was haunted. If I had known earlier, she wouldn't be stubborn. Dead now. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 144. Come out of the toilet. There is another fierce ghost in the soul-binding bag. Shen Jian was shocked. Just now, I always felt like I knew some terrible secret. He returned to the elite class. I didn't see the little snow ghost. Instead, it was Qin Ziyi and Men Nu who made the request. Take you with me. Yes, the identity given by the thriller game is too clever. The main mission is to survive for 7 days. However, due to the identity of the exchange students, there is not much time left for us. It can even be said that there is no time. If this continues, we will not be able to survive at all. Find the traces of this forbidden monster. Qin Ziyi said seriously. Although I don't know how you became the head teacher, I think as long as the head teacher comes forward and says something, we can move freely. Shen Jian thought about it and didn't refuse. Okay, but just don't grab it from me. Qin Ziyi? What to grab? That's all. Shen Jian came to the location of the second ghost talk. The three of them walked across the playground and arrived at the back entrance of the school. There is a small mound here. Like a cemetery. The surrounding flower stamens blocked the view. But a faint sound could be heard. Qin Ziyi immediately recalled something in his mind. With a solemn expression, the crying ghost cleaner, codenamed the Crying Ghost, is one of the ghost stories. The supernatural ability is very scary, a bit like saying whatever you say. As long as the crying ghost cries to you and says something the way you die, these symptoms will appear on your body at the same time. According to the data records, this fierce ghost should be at the King II level, but the threat level is not high, because he will only stay in this small mound and cry in mourning. Are you sure you want to provoke him? Shen Jian said nothing. Stride forward. The two players, Qin Ziyi and Men Nu, looked thoughtful when they saw this. This ghost story does not involve the main mission, and it is also an extremely difficult King II level ghost. Logically speaking, players only need to avoid it, but Shen Jian did the opposite. To say that there is no specific purpose, I don't believe it. Side mission? Or some kind of hidden mission? The two of them made a judgment in their hearts. They followed together. I saw a middle-aged man dressed as a cleaner crying in mourning. His voice was pitiful and wailing, and he was crying harder than usual. But if you listen carefully, you will find that there is a hint of a sinister smile in this mourning sound from time to time. Cry and laugh. All the players felt a chill. The horror of the supernatural has begun to appear at this moment. The cries of the cleaners still echoed. Woo, it's so miserable, my wife, you died so miserably. Why did you die like this and leave me alone? You are so miserable. The body has been dismembered, the bones have been crushed, and the internal organs have been extracted. Ah, it's really pitiful. As she got closer, Mennu's eyes became strange. His face was slightly distorted, showing a tendency to laugh half and half to cry. Qin Ziyi also frowned, as if he was restraining himself. The two of them looked at Shen Jian at the same time. My heart skipped a beat. Because under the supernatural power, Shen Jian's expression did not change at all. It's like being completely immune to the supernatural influence of the mourning ghost. How can this be? According to the records of Daxia Lonke, the supernatural power of this green-clad mourning ghost cannot be exempted even by the ghost master who controls the puzzle of two fierce ghosts. Even if a city manager level ghost controller comes, he probably won't be able to be as relaxed as Shen Jian. What kind of evil ghost did he control? This doubt appeared in Qin Ziyi's mind. Soon, they saw a memorial tablet, crookedly placed on a small mound of soil, and a man kneeling in front of the memorial tablet, wearing a cleaner's uniform. His face was terrifying. Half crying, half laughing. His expression was extremely exaggerated and forceful, and his facial features were somewhat deformed, making him look more and more weird. Viewed from behind, the cleaner's shoulders were shaking slightly, as if he was in great sadness, but somewhere out of sight, he was holding a hammer in his hand. The hammer was stained with blood and was still ticking down, with even bits of flesh and blood on it. While mourning, sinister laughter also echoed from time to time. Incredibly penetrating. I can temporarily affect this ghost's perception. Do you really want to join me? It's not a wise choice to waste energy on suppressing an unnecessary ghost. Dream Girl whispered. Qin Ziyi looked at Shen Jian. Where are people? The two of them suddenly froze. Because when they were on guard, Shen Jian had already walked up. What? The devil obviously didn't notice us, brother, what are you doing? Isn't this just a warning? The two were shocked. Some people can't understand Shen Jian's operation. The other side. Shen Jian has already stepped forward. He patted the shoulder of the mourning ghost and sighed, brother, people cannot be resurrected after death. You should think more about good things. For example, without your wife, your unicorn arm will be useful again. Crying ghost. Your words of comfort are quite special. However, after seeing the human being, he stopped crying and stared at Shen Jian with bright eyes. Then he smiled sadly, do you know how my wife died? Shen Jian asked tentatively, been dismembered by 5 horses? Or was it stabbed 1,300 times? Or was the internal organs eviscerated without damaging the skin? Crying ghost? How the hell did you say such a cruel way of death with your 36-degree mouth? He was beaten to death. After being told how to die, the mourning ghost felt a little ashamed. Because compared to the death methods mentioned by Shen Jian, death by hammering is not difficult at all. But then, the mourner raised the hammer in his hand and added, I hammered him to death. He believed that these words would definitely impress Shen Jian. How? Shen Jian asked. Crying ghost? I said I beat my wife to death with a hammer, but you ask me how I killed her? You come here to find trouble. The mourning ghost's eyes became dangerous. Shen Jian continued, is it possible to use alkaline hydrolysis to treat corpses? Do you know how to clean up a murder scene? Do you know how to kill someone, bury the body, and create an alibi? Crying ghost. I don't know how serious it is. He shook his head subconsciously. Bad. Shen Jian said disappointedly. What did you say? Your technique is too low level. If we were there, we wouldn't even be able to drink soup. Crying ghost. Then what should I do? Shen Jian smiled. Follow me and learn well and watch well. Shen Jian took out a mace. The mourner was confused, what is this? Didn't you say that you killed your wife with a hammer? I will repeat this process, then dispose of the body, and teach you by words and deeds. But where did this come from? The mourning ghost was talking and finally reacted. The target was actually myself. Human, you are seeking death. The mourner squeezed out a voice from his throat, with a face that was half smiling and half crying, you died so miserably, your brain was smashed, your bones were crushed, your internal organs. The vicious curse began to spread. A smile appeared on the corner of the mourning ghost's mouth. A human being, fighting with him, would not overestimate himself. The psychological journey is not over yet. The mourning ghost's expression froze. Because he discovered that Shen Jian had not received any supernatural influence from him, but instead picked up the mace and smashed it towards his Tianling cap. Ah! The morning ghost screamed and howled. Your humming skills are worse than mine. I killed my wife with at least one hammer. But the pain really hurts. Bang bang bang. The crisp sound of smashing drowned out the wailing. Wait until everything calms down. The morning ghost no longer looks human. Shen Jian came all the way to the spiritual throne again. On the spiritual throne is a middle-aged woman. He looked very miserable, with blood everywhere on his head. Dye the spiritual place red. Shen Jian knocked on the spiritual tablet. The middle-aged woman on the spiritual throne immediately took action. He looked at Shen Jian doubtfully. Wake up, your husband exploded. Spirit ghost? She just wanted to make some moves. Shen Jian directly broke the spiritual tablet in half. The spirit ghost split open. He died before leaving the army. Do it all. Shen Jian left with satisfaction. 2 more Xingyi level devils came in. Although it was a lot, as long as it was rewarding, he didn't pick it. Qin Ziyi and Men Nu, who were watching from a distance, were also split apart. Is this a ghost? When did it become so easy to deal with the Xingyi level ghosts? Really? Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 145. This should be the last ghost of Blood Moon High School, the ghost mirror that peers into death. Qin Ziyi opened the door of a bedroom. A full-length mirror came into view. His eyes were a little complicated, and he looked at Shen Jian in a daze. Less than half a day. He took Shen Jian around the entire campus and caught up with all the weird legends circulating in Blood Moon High School. A rough estimate is that there are at least 30 pieces. After conversion, that's 30 fierce ghosts. Faced with the murderous attacks of these evil spirits, Shen Jian simply struck down with a few sticks, and the evil spirits lay on the ground wailing. I wish I had 8 more legs. What made it even more difficult for him to accept was that even after using more than 30 supernatural powers, Shen Jian didn't seem to suffer any backlash from the evil ghost. This is unbelievable. Psychic power is a double-edged sword. Unless you don't use it, you will definitely hurt yourself. However, Shen Jian overturned this statement. After using his supernatural powers for half a day, the evil ghost in his body showed no signs of recovery. He knew exactly what this meant. Shen Jian stared at the ghost mirror in front of him. Peering into death. Qin Ziyi nodded and said, "This is a story from a folk ghost master." He pointed out that there is a magical mirror in the girls' dormitory of Blood Moon High School. Anyone who is reflected in the mirror will see their own death in the future, and only when you look into the ghost mirror can you see the existence of the ghost. The dream girl wondered, is this predicting the future? Could it be that the ghost mirror shows some kind of death, and we will die in this way in the future? There is a lack of data and it is impossible to judge accurately. However, the folk ghost master died at home on the 3rd day after telling the information and was eaten alive by the evil ghost he controlled. This was what he spied on in the ghost mirror. The way to die. As soon as these words came out, Mennu was startled. This is too scary. He glimpsed his own death date in advance but could not change it. Certainly. She also sees the value in it. If the death method shown in the ghost mirror is really a countdown to death in the future, it will not be difficult to avoid it. Maybe it can change your fate against the will of heaven. She carefully came to the mirror and let herself be shrouded in the ghost mirror. Next moment, Mennu's pupils shrank. Shortness of breath. Because looking through the mirror, there was a female ghost with disheveled hair standing next to her. However, as soon as the sight left, the female ghost disappeared. This scene is so scary. Creepy. She suppressed her fear and looked again. In the mirror, she looked very scary. Her face was covered in blood, her head was squeezed out of shape, and white brains and blood were mixed on her face. Hiss. Mennu took a breath, her whole body trembling. I don't know what happened to make me die in such a tragic way. What she didn't notice was that she was becoming more and more immersed in watching it, and her body unconsciously leaned forward, with her face almost touching the ghost mirror. Ho ho ho, you died so miserably. The female ghost's voice echoed in her ears. The moment she heard this voice, Mennu was stunned, and then her eyes gradually became blurred, and she murmured unconsciously. It's so miserable, I'm so miserable. There is a picture of me dying in the mirror. It's my turn to die. The dream girl murmured for a moment. His body couldn't help but move. Climbed up to the balcony of the dormitory. Her method of death was apparently suicide by jumping off a building. But this time, a blood-stained ghost rope was put around her head and she was lifted up. At the other end of the ghost rope, the ornaments on Shen Jian's wrist were gone. Qinzi, you really don't understand what it means to pity the fragrance and cherish the jade. How could anyone use a sling to tie up a teammate? However, under the circumstances, hanging on the rope was indeed the fastest option. Being trapped by the ghost rope and pulled down, the suffocation made Mennu wake up immediately. His face turned pale. She just almost fulfilled the death method in the ghost mirror. This is too scary. It is simply impossible to guard against. She didn't even know how she got tricked. If Shen Jian hadn't given her a hand at the critical moment, she would have turned into a piece of meat. Seeing that the person she wanted to kill was stopped, the female ghost's pale pupils became even more grim. Let me come, I just want to see how I will die. Shen Jian's face was expressionless. The female ghost said in Shen Jian's ear, first come, first served, she dies first, then you die. There are still such rules, but I don't have any quality or morals, so I choose to join the team. Is there any problem with you? Grass. There are those who are seeking death and jumping in line. The female ghost didn't hold back this time and twitched the corners of her mouth. But the other party was determined to seek death, so she didn't mind giving this human a ride first. In the mirror, the female ghost approached Shen Jian and said with a sinister smile, you are already dead. Look in the mirror and you will see your death state in it. Shen Jian's eyes were unblinking, showing a bit of anticipation. He wanted to see if it was a ghost mirror that could predict the future. Several minutes passed. Shen Jian waited until he became impatient. This ghost mirror of yours must be a fake. It hasn't responded after so long. Female ghost. Her face stiffened. Because Shen Jian in the ghost mirror looked impatient and looked at her dangerously. The ghost mirror cannot affect this human being. How can this be? The female ghost showed a surprised look. From the king of ghosts to the lonely wild ghosts, there is no death state that cannot be manifested by her. Including this human being. She still doesn't believe it. The female ghost looked at Shen Jian pitifully, and then the yin qi burst out. This time, there is finally a picture in the ghost mirror. Shen Jian's appearance changed. Wearing dark and gloomy clothes, he holds a book in his left hand and a pen in his right hand. Look faintly. I also saw 3 words written on the pages of this book. Book of Life and Death. Shen Jian looked over. When the Book of Life and Death is opened, the pen is about to fall. Ah, no. The female ghost suddenly screamed sharply, her whole body trembling. He looked at Shen Jian with a look of horror. In the ghost mirror, the picture also disappeared. Shen Jian was thoughtful. The ghost mirror could not show the way he died, but it showed him using the form of King Yama. He was a little disappointed. The promised death state. Shen Jian sighed. If you catch a female ghost, you'll give her a good beating. Finally, the ghost and the mirror were packed together. Qinzi. Dream girl. Got used to. They really want to learn this fat guy's ability to beat up tough ghosts. At this time, a scarlet panel emerged. It has been detected that the ghost stories on campus have disappeared, and the principal of the taboo ghost stories has paid attention to it. The main mission has been changed. Main mission: survive from the hands of the ghost principal. Task requirement: don't be discovered. Note: there are still 3 hours left before the ghost principal returns. This moment, 6 players participating in the dungeon received mission changes at the same time. Everyone's expressions changed drastically. The taboo and strange story turned out to be the principal of Blood Moon High School. If a vice principal is already a red-clad ghost, then the ghost principal must also be a real red-clad ghost, or even more powerful. 3 hours later, they will face an attack from a red-clothed ghost. All players were stunned. What's the situation? Exploration missions directly become escape missions. How is this different from jumping from hard mode to death mode all at once? Seeing this panel prompt, Shen Jian was also stunned for a moment. The hidden mission is to improve the school environment. Then he wipes out all the weird rumors on campus and restores a stable environment for teachers and students. Isn't this what a dean should do? Why did it attract the attack from the ghost principal? Did he understand it wrong? Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Never mind. If it's wrong, it's wrong. The ghost principal treated him favorably. If that's the case, then just take it away with a stick instead of abusing the corpse. Etc. Shen Jian suddenly thought of it. His hidden mission is just to be the dean of students, but now that the position of ghost principal is vacant, is it reasonable for him to take over? The thought of this, Shen Jian suddenly felt that fortunately he had understood it wrong. Otherwise, where would such an opportunity come from? What should we do? Qin Ziyi broke into cold sweat. Face to face with a red-clothed level ghost, this is probably the city manager of Yanqing who has to burn incense and worship Buddha for a quarter of an hour. Not to mention him, the commissioner responsible for public security. He doesn't have the ability to suppress such a powerful ghost. Hey, brother, where are you going? Shen Jian waved his hand and said, go find someone to talk to. He wanted to be the principal of Blood Moon High School, so he would need Aunt Bai's help. Naturally, he had to fulfill his filial piety now. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 146. Office of the Vice Chancellor. Shen Jian knocked on the door. Who is it? If it's nothing important, don't. A lazy voice came out. It's me, Aunt Bai. Shen Jian emphasized his tone. In the entire campus, he is the only one who can call the ghost vice principal Aunt Bai. This special recognition can effectively increase the relationship between the two. Come in. Sure enough, when he heard Shen Jian's voice, the voice stopped abruptly. Open the door. The ghost vice principal seemed to be sleeping just now and seemed to have just woken up. She stretched lazily, showing off her perfect body curves. But there was still a bit of fatigue on his face. After seeing it was Shen Jian, he reluctantly cheered up. What's wrong? Do you want to finish the mini-game you just didn't finish? Aunt Bai chuckled. The charm of a young mature woman came to my face. Ghost Vice Principal. Current status, tired, curious, interested. Favorability, 53, familiar. But your Aunt Bai doesn't have any extra. If it gets scratched again, I'll have to let you buy it. Shen Jian was a little embarrassed. Leg play is no joke. Aunt Bai, I'm looking for you for business. Shen Jian said seriously. The ghost vice principal put one hand on his desk and looked at the little man in front of him with interest. Although she is a human being, I have to say that she is really a little moved. Shen Jian was completely in tune with her aesthetics and catered to her special hobbies. Being paid attention to by such a man sometimes made her excited. It's about the ghost principle. That's it? Just for this little thing. The ghost vice principal lost interest as soon as he heard this. He held his chin with his disappointed hands and made a muffled voice, "If you want to know about the principal, just go to the teachers and find out. I don't know more than those teachers. But I must warn you, don't get too close to the principal." "Why?" The ghost vice principal shook his head. "The things involved here are a bit complicated. I can't explain it for a while. If other humans want to die and follow them, you can't get involved." Shen Jian was thoughtful. Suddenly said, "Then what if I say that I was targeted by the ghost principal?" "What?" The ghost vice principal stood up immediately. His originally lazy expression immediately became serious. Shen Jian continued, "I was targeted by the ghost principal. He will return to campus in 3 hours." After listening, the ghost vice principal frowned. "What on earth did you do to make him come back all the way?" "It's not that big of a deal. It's just that we've cleared away the strange legends here." Ghost vice principal: "This is not a big deal. It's obviously great, right? It can even be said that it touched the principal's core interests. This is too much trouble." She didn't know what to do for a while. Soon, she readjusted. "You came to me to seek my asylum, or do you have any ideas?" Shen Jian was stunned. The response is pretty quick. When most people encounter this kind of situation, they probably won't think of the possibility that he can do something about it. "I want to be the principal, so I need your help, and by." The ghost vice principal was stunned. "Do you have a way to get rid of him? If you can do this, plus your credit for clearing the campus of ghost stories, and my help, you can indeed sit in this position. But you may not know that the principal of Blood Moon High School is not an ordinary red-clad ghost. Even I can't stand in front of his supernatural power for long." "I'm sure." Shen Jian nodded. Seeing this, the ghost vice principal looked strange. To deal with the principal of Blood Moon High School, only a being at the level of a ghost king could do it, and such a being would secretly peek at her with that fiery gaze. When she thought of this, her body went numb. Favorability, add 10, 63 ambiguous. "Shen Jian? I'm talking about business, are you secretly trying to increase your favorability?" Looking at Shen Jian's strange gaze, she had the illusion of being seen through, and then said seriously, "If this is the case, then you will definitely be admitted. You may not know that the so-called copy of Blood Moon High School is actually a large dining table, principal. Formulate all kinds of cruel school rules and class rules, and then spread ghost stories and legends to cultivate the fear of teachers and students, so your behavior will attract his attacks. If you can get rid of him, no one will compete with you for this position." Shen Jian was thoughtful. Cultivate strange stories, spread fear, and then harvest fear. Dining table. True to its name. Shen Jian thought of his hidden mission. Improve the campus environment. He misunderstood this improvement as the legend of sweeping ghost stories. Thinking about it now, he should be asked to continue creating fear. Create a legend similar to the 8th ghost story on campus. Creating more fear and then harvesting it in turn is indeed called improving the campus environment from the perspective of the ghost principal. It's just that the other party didn't expect that he would catch all the ghost stories, causing this supernatural copy to completely collapse. It destroyed all the hard work he had been doing. Shen Jian clarified his thoughts. A hint of weirdness appeared. How dare this Dogecoin thing take advantage of him? It can be said that even if there is no such hidden mission, once he enters the Blood Moon High School copy, it is necessary to clear out the ghost legend. After all, a ghost story is a ghost with a very high level of terror. How could he miss such an achievement? Come to your senses. Shen Jian looked at Vice Principal Ghost. A favorable impression above 60 is already in the ambiguous stage. Shen Jian smiled and said, "Thank you so much, and bye." The ghost vice principal raised his proud snow-white neck, "Then how should you thank me?" Her eyes rolled, and as she spoke, she lifted up her long legs in stockings and sat crosswise. Shen Jian glanced over. No wonder some people have fun with their legs. Before he really saw all this, Shen Jian thought that he was not interested in legs. But he found he was wrong. He just had never encountered such a pair of beautiful legs. Especially a pair of small feet, delicate. Each toe is plump and very cute, which can be called a miracle of the Creator. 1.2 much is too fat, 1.2 little is too thin. Tender and white, as beautiful as nature. There is also a faint orchid fragrance. If this were placed in front of some members of the leg cult, they would probably offer it as a tribute and pray several times a day. Shen Jian's eyes moved. He smiled and said, "Aunt Bai, you look so tired. Let me help you press the button," said. Shen Jian grabbed this pair of beautiful legs. "Aunt Bai, I am a doctor. Do you know how many acupuncture points there are on the feet? For example, pressing the Yongquan point here can help the body better promote blood circulation throughout the body. There is also the kneading point here, located between the second and third toes. Pressing here can remove stomach fire and relieve stomach heat. There is also the Zaya high point, located on the inside of the foot. It can be used to relieve red eyes and insomnia. It is very helpful to you, Aunt Bai." When he was caught by Shen Jian, Vice Principal Ghost's first reaction was to lift his foot and almost stuff it into Shen Jian's mouth. Then listening to Shen Jian's professional narration, she had the illusion that Shen Jian was not taking advantage of her, but was giving her a serious massage because she was in a poor mental state. When she thought of this, she didn't take it back. But there was still something strange inside. This was the first time she had physical contact with a man. Happy time is always short. Coming out of Aunt Bai's side, Shen Jian smiled knowingly. Favorability, 70, ambiguous. On the way back. Ding. The phone beeped. Shen Jian picked it up and took a look. It's a shared emoticon. HD animation, it's really you JPG. Shen Jian? It was indeed you who was in the toilet at that time. At this time, the little snow ghost came out of the corner. He looked at Shen Jian with a look of shame and anger. Her secret was discovered, and it was discovered by her savior. This is so embarrassing. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. How did you know? Xiao Sui, we said in shame, the only ones who can use mobile phones here are teachers. I have made insinuations about other teachers, but I have never seen the new head teacher, and he is the most likely one. Make a price, how can you not tell this matter? Shen Jian was silent. He looked the little snow ghost up and down. This made her frightened, thinking of her crazy behavior of opening her windbreaker under the other person's gaze. Her pretty face suddenly turned red. I understand, but you have to give me some time, not now. Finished. Xiaoxiugui left in panic. Shen Jian? Time flies. The 3-hour countdown is over. Main mission, survive in the hands of the ghost principal. Task requirement, don't be discovered. Note, the owner of the dungeon has opened the permissions and currently cannot leave Blood Moon High School. Watch the Scarlet Panel introduction. All the players' faces were pale and their hairs stood on end. Staying in the stadium is restless. Do you really want to stay here? The Blood Moon High School dungeon is so big. If we want to hide, even the red-clad ghosts won't be able to find us so quickly. An impatient player spoke. Why don't we retreat and let each of us run away? To this, Shen Jian just said calmly, "It's here now." Other players' facial muscles tremble. The gods are coming. Your reason for dying is too casual. They managed to survive to this day, but they didn't want to die like this. Qin Ziyi hurriedly explained, "You may not know that the dungeon master has the authority to know all the trends in the dungeon at any time, especially foreign players. In the eyes of the dungeon master, they are living targets. Separation is the only way to unite. The beginning of destruction. Listen. Other players are desperate. He still has such shameless authority." Seeing the scene where morale was getting lower and lower, Qin Ziyi expressed a glimmer of hope for Shen Jian. Shen Jian also told him about the dungeon master's ability to understand players' movements. There is no information about this news within Daxia Lonke. Because no player has ever owned a large copy so far, they will naturally not know such top-secret information. And Shen Jian knew. The meaning is different. Qin Ziyi felt a little jealous in his heart. He didn't ask Shen Jian to suppress the ghost principle, he just wanted to force him to retreat once. The supernatural powers of the 6 players present were able to drive back a red-clad evil spirit. If successful, they would become the first group of ghost masters to have faced off against a red-level evil spirit head-on. Unparalleled in the limelight. If it fails, all is well. Clatter. 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 Heavy footsteps sounded. All players were horrified. The ghost principle is here. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 147. Sizzle. In the silent stadium. An extremely cold evil spirit is spreading rapidly. Clatter. 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 Along with the sound, these footsteps are like stepping on the hearts of all the players. Every step taken is a test of the heart. All players' souls are at risk. The fear threshold has soared, exceeding the limits of normal people. I just feel like my heart is going to beat out of my body. Crunch. The door lock turned. A dull voice sounded, and an old man with a stooped waist and a face covered with corpse spots, wearing paper clothes, pushed open the door. A pair of white pupils scanned the players. Just by standing there, the surrounding air began to drop rapidly, and the tremendous pressure made all the players present breathless. What was even more terrifying was that the moment they saw the ghost principle, everyone felt as if their skulls were about to explode, and an inexplicable fear began to envelope them. They all lowered their heads. Because at a certain moment, they realized that if they continued to stare at this evil ghost, something bad would happen. This is an intuition of the supernatural. None of the players who have survived to this day are simple. The ability to judge supernatural events is several times that of normal people. They trust this intuition. As expected. The moment the player lowered his head, 2 bodies appeared on the ghost principal's body. Only one head sticks out of the body. The facial features are hollow, the complexion is ferocious, and some vague outlines can still be seen. These outlines look very much like the players present. Is the ghost principal copying? All players were horrified. Could this evil ghost be able to copy them? Then what? Substitute? Is this the terror of the red-clad ghost? It's so incredible. At this moment, Qin Ziyi also looked horrified. Can they really win against such a ghost that they can't look directly at? If they don't even dare to watch the opponent's position, then what are they going to win? In such panic, Shen Jian watched with interest as the bodies of the ghost principal kept popping up. That's his body. The facial features are exactly the same. And the upper body has climbed out. He showed a ferocious smile to his real body. You deserve to die. The ghost principal's old voice spat out. It was like a corpse that had not spoken for more than 10 years and whose throat was blocked was making sounds. Creepy. In order to cultivate a large-scale supernatural replica, he spent all his efforts and created the Blood Moon High School, which is famous in the horror world. Among them, the ghost stories are the top priority. It's his way of harvesting fear. Now they are all destroyed by a human being. Let his efforts be in vain. Die. Must die. This human being must die. The ghost principle became twisted. The copy of Shenjian on his body also completely crawled out. There was a snap. Fell to the ground. Shenjian. Ghost principle. He was startled. Why is that human okay? The moment the clone crawled out, their identities should have been replaced. This is a mortal curse. Once the supernatural replica crawls out completely, it will replace the identity of the original body and become the carrier of living reality. But now it failed. Only one idiot crawled out. Are you irreplaceable? The ghost principal made a confused sound. He can even replace the vice principal of Blood Moon High School, but now he can't replace a human being. This is simply impossible in the horror world. Even if humans control the ghost puzzle, possess some supernatural power, and have the ability to fight against ghosts, this kind of incomplete supernatural power is generally limited to people below the red level. At the red level, humans' so-called mastery of supernatural puzzles will only severely restrict their development. After all, which incomplete jigsaw would dare to unleash his supernatural power in front of a red-clothed ghost? And this human being is a bit special. It's also related to souls. Are you from a ghost town too? Shenjian was thoughtful. He picked up the morning stick in his hand and rushed over. Seeing this situation that looked like gangsters fighting, the ghost principal also showed a hint of sneer in his surprise. What era is it? Do you still think that the old man is powerless? He is a ghost. This is not the first time since running Blood Moon High School that he has replaced humans. Among them, he has even replaced several professional boxers. Even without the use of supernatural powers, he can kill a human with his bare hands. At least. Before Shenjian dropped the stick. The ghost principal's confidence is still maintained. But after the battle begins. This old man with rich fighting experience didn't even last 30 seconds before he was knocked to the ground. The confidence in his eyes had dissipated and was replaced by fear on his face. No matter how skilled you are still afraid of kitchen knives? And Shenjian's strength and speed coupled with the morning stick, it is not just as simple as a kitchen knife, but the ghost principal's rich fighting experience also really plays a role. When the head-hugging rat is running around, it can slow down the intensity of being beaten to the greatest extent. But under the morning stick, all ghosts are equal. No matter how much it is reduced, the pain is still the same. Shenjian knelt down, with some surprise in his eyes. Even a red-clad ghost should not be able to withstand the blows of his full-power morning stick. However, this ghost principal endured 20 of his sticks before being knocked down, and he still had the strength to struggle. Where did you get the paper clothes you're wearing? Shenjian quickly located the source. It's the paper clothes worn by the ghost principal. This paper garment withstood the unnecessary attacks for him. After suffering a severe beating, the ghost principal was still very tough. I'm sorry, this is related to my friend's secret, I can't reveal it. See it? Shenjian directly put the morning stick against the ghost principal's face. If you don't say yes, I will give you two choices. One is to be beaten to death by my stick. The second is to be beaten to death by me with a stick. You choose. Ghost principal. Hear this. He was stunned for a moment, thinking that he was deaf and misdirected his choice. Then think about it. What the is the difference between these two options? Seeing Shenjian's vicious attitude. After thinking for 2 seconds, the ghost principal decisively chose to leak the news. There is no way. If you don't say anything, just send it. At this time, he believed that his old friends would understand him. Bottom line? Didn't he hesitate for 2 seconds? Isn't this enough proof of their friendship? Then, the ghost principal smiled and said, "This paper coat was given to me by a close friend of mine. He runs a funeral parlor. He is also a paper tying master secretly. He and his sister-in-law opened a paper tying shop. This paper coat of mine is the final product. If you need it, sir, I can lead the way." Shen Jian was slightly stunned. It's normal that there are funeral parlors in the horror world. But the ghost principal also obviously mentioned the master of paper making, which reminded Shen Jian of the supernatural funeral parlor he had arrived at. The owner there seemed to be a paper man. There are still children wrapped in paper everywhere. Is the funeral parlor you are talking about called Xiaoyuan Funeral Parlor? Shen Jian asked. The ghost principal was stunned and nodded subconsciously. Yes, my old friend does have a Xiaoyuan funeral parlor, which is specially used to deal with excess failed paper figures. Have you seen it, sir? Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. This world is really small. This can happen. His relationship with the funeral home owner was not that good. After all, he took a hearse along with him. Are there many paper-making masters here? Of course not many. I am the only old friend in the entire Nanjiang district, and yes, there is also my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law is the master of paper tying skills. They are the only 2 paper tying masters in the entire Nanjiang district. Shen Jian's lips curled up. He still carries the title of a paper-making apprentice. I learned it from the dean of Huangquan Hospital. The good friend mentioned by the other party runs a paper tying shop and has reached the peak of paper tying skills. Shen Jian suspects that the good friend who taught her paper tying skills is the sister-in-law mentioned by the ghost principal. It seems that he has been exposed to the top circles in Nanjiang district. These high-level ghosts are all related to each other. Figure this out. Shen Jian asked again about the information he was most concerned about. You know ghost towns? The ghost principal's face changed drastically. Hemming and hawing. Shen Jian frowned. Ghost principal. I was forced. Know a little. Explain. I only know that the ghost city will only open at specific times. It is a paradise for evil spirits and ordinary evil spirits cannot enter. Isn't it said that there is a prison where evil spirits are spread? Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. The ghost town can actually be entered on your own. This is different from prison. You can also say that, after all, not 1 out of 10 evil ghosts who enter will survive. If they can gain a foothold in the ghost town, there is a high probability that they will not return. It is no different from the rumors. What is there that can attract evil spirits? The ghost principal paused, killing wantonly, and the owner of the ghost town, I heard, can get the secret of advanced ghosts and gods. Spirits. Shen Jian's eyes moved. Interest is greater. How do I enter a ghost town? I have no idea. I really don't know. If I run Blood Moon High School well, I can be promoted to the level of Ghost King within 100 years. I don't have to explore an unknown place. The ghost principal said quickly. Shen Jian nodded. Sounds like that. Then why are you hitting me? The ghost principal curled up and complained with his head in his hands. Smoothly. Ghost principal. A good man does not suffer immediate losses. It is never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. In ancient times, there was a king of you who lay down on his firewood and tasted his courage, but now there is a ghost king who holds his head and endures. One last thing, pass on your position as principal to me. Ghost principal. This, Blood Moon High School does not belong to me alone. Even if you take the position of principal, if Principal Fu and all the teachers do not recognize it, you will not be able to inherit it. The ghost principal was vague. The meaning behind the words is the same, just give up on this idea. Unless you can conquer the whole school. I don't need to worry about it. Aunt Bai will help me finish the rest. Shenjian, the old Shinto. Aunt Bai? Who? Bai Zayashu? That bitch betrayed me? She asked. Oops, ouch, don't fight, I was wrong. In the empty stadium, the ghost principal's wails could be heard endlessly. All the players who were on alert were dumbfounded. Jaw-dropping. What's the situation? What did they see? The red-clothed evil spirit was beaten violently and had no power to fight back. Click. This moment. Their three views collapsed. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 148. 3 days later. Principal's office. Shenjian sat in this exclusive position. After yesterday's efforts, Aunt Bai successfully helped him win this position. After hearing that the ghost principal had been subdued and the ghost stories on campus were cleared, all the teachers and students present raised their hands in agreement. In addition, the principal's position was voluntarily donated by the ghost principal. Shenjian was successfully elected as the principal of Blood Moon High School. A panel also appeared in front of him. Blood Moon High School. Heir, King Yama himself. It is detected that the owner of the copy is a human, and the following permissions will be unlocked. 1. The player is in Blood Moon High School, and his strength automatically increases by 1 level. 30% of the thriller coins produced can be taken away, and the rest is used as dungeon funds. 2. It is detected that there are many ghosts in the dungeon, and it is within the scope of a college. The owner of the dungeon has the authority to close Blood Moon High School and detect the movement of people at any time. 3. The two-world passage can be opened to send people and ghosts to different worlds. Cooling countdown, 30 days. Available dungeons, Campus Ghost Stories, Closed, Crazy Exam Day, 1 star to 1 star, Blood Moon High School, 3 stars. Compared with the previous dungeons, the level of the Blood Moon High School dungeon is undoubtedly higher. From 1 star to 3 stars. Involved in all aspects. Moreover, from the words of the ghost principal, Shenjian also knew that supernatural copies could be artificially created. Just like Campus Ghost Stories. Just spread fear and the corresponding weird stories will be born. After that, as long as you cultivate it carefully, a ghost that makes colleges and universities frightened will appear in a specific place. At first, fear is spread artificially, and then the ghost principal harvests fear regularly, forming a virtuous cycle. This is why the ghost principal went completely crazy after Shenjian captured all the ghost legends. Because this interrupted his promotion to the Ghost King. Principal, are you listening? At this time, the dissatisfied voice of the ghost vice principal came. Shenjian came to his senses. Standing in front of him was Aunt Bai, who was wearing a teacher's uniform and silver-rimmed glasses with a dissatisfied look on her face. Willow waist is slender. Although the exaggerated career line is completely covered up by the teaching uniforms, there is still a sense of horror and oppression that is in danger and is about to break out of the mountain. Her whole body was like an extremely attractive cherry. It makes people want to take a bite. Especially the pair of slender stockings legs with no trace of fat visible, they are like a pair of sharp swords sharpened by hoeing. Even before it is unsheathed, it is already showing its sharp edge. Vice Principal Ghost noticed Shenjian's gaze. That dissatisfied pretty face unconsciously curved into an exaggerated arc. Does it look good? Shenjian follows his heart. Nod. What did you just say? Shenjian asked. The ghost vice principal then said seriously, there is no money. Shenjian was startled. Open the panel and take a look. The copy fund column is indeed empty. What happened? Shenjian was slightly surprised. This was the first time he encountered a situation where the copy had no funds. You know, even a supernatural amusement park on the verge of bankruptcy still has nearly 1 million copies of funds. As a large-scale supernatural institution with a 3-star copy, Blood Moon High School is running perfectly and will never be short of funds. I investigated the source of the account and found that the remittance address was a place called Blood Paper Tie Shop. The purpose was for self-purchase. It seemed that I bought a paper coat. Shen Jian was startled. He took out a tattered paper coat. This thing actually used up the dungeon funds of Blood Moon High School? But then I thought about it, this paper coat really played a huge role in allowing a red-clad fierce ghost to withstand so many of his attacks. How to make money by making paper? Shen Jian was thoughtful. I'll put it on first. Shen Jian said. But he was already thinking in his heart, when he had time, he would beat up the ghost principal again, and he would spend all his money, which was unforgivable. Let's get down to business. The ghost vice principal changed the subject. Little man, why do I feel like I have become your secretary now? I am the vice principal, not a secretary who specializes in helping you deal with this kind of thing. The ghost vice principal walked over and put his weight on Shen Jian's shoulders. Yingying smiled. Shen Jian took advantage of the situation. Before the ghost vice principal could react, she had already appeared in Shen Jian's arms. Shen Jian chuckled and said, "Aunt Bai, have you ever heard of a saying? The secretary has something to do, and it's okay. Auntie, you know that the principal has nothing to do. So I can only." Another day. Shen Jian was finally freed from the high-intensity work. Looking at Aunt Bai, who was lying on her side on the desk with a rosy face, Shen Jian glanced at her. Ghost Vice Principal Bai Zayashu. Current status, happy, aftertaste, looking forward to it. Favorability, 91, intimate. I lost to you. Did you have such a plan all along? The ghost vice principal looked resentful. Shen Jian was non-committal. By the way, Auntie, I heard that you are also a resident of the villa of the past life. Shen Jian asked. He has read the information. Aunt Bai lives in villa number 8 in the past life villa district. What? Want to move there? The ghost vice principal joked. You are now the principal of Blood Moon High School, and you are considered a prominent figure. If you move here, others will think that there is an inappropriate relationship between the principal and the vice principal, which may affect your image. But, I'm always welcome. I'm going to leave first and disappear for a day. I'm afraid it will attract criticism. The ghost vice principal rolled his eyes at Shen Jian, twisted his waist and left. Shen Jian watched. He said softly, "It's time to put it on the agenda." The past life villa area is the property of the divided past life villa. It is also one of his industries. Of course he wanted to take it back. Shen Jian pondered. In addition to the Piranha Villa area, the Huangquan Hotel opposite the Piranha Villa is also a problem. Only by solving these two problems can the Rebirth Villa be completely complete. Knock knock knock. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Before Shen Jian could agree, a little snow ghost with white skin had already walked in. He muttered, "I've been waiting all day and I don't know how to stop." Hi-tai. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows, as if he didn't hear her whisper. Then, he looked at the two-world passage on the panel, and an idea suddenly came to his mind. Do you want to go to the human world? Ah! A scarlet panel emerged. This round of game has ended. Congratulations to the player for passing the Blood Moon High School copy. The copy is being settled. Rating, S. Experience gained, 500%. Note, you have been promoted to level 28. Items obtained, Thriller Coin * 5000. Get special reward, Blood Moon High School Real Estate. Note, congratulations to the player for winning the hearts of the people and winning the position of principal. Note, the identity of the player King Yama has changed. Note, congratulations to the player King of Yama for obtaining 3 large dungeons, unlocking the title Principal of Blood Moon High School, and unlocking the hidden achievement Nanjiang District No. 1 Dominator. Real world. Shen Jian opened his eyes. In front of me was a message that was flooding the screen. He opened the game panel. Player, King Yama himself. Identity, King Yama, King Guang of Qin. Abilities, Pressure of Ghosts and Gods, Ghost Energy of Ghosts and Gods, Blood of Ghosts and Gods, Good Omen of the Netherworld. Strength, 66, the limit for ordinary people is 10. Speed, 66. Yin Qi, 8,300. Thriller Coin, 200,000. Real Estate, Room 101, Unit 3, Swequan Community, Rebirth Villa, Supernatural Game Park, Blood Moon High School. Title, Dungeon Destroyer, Passive, Owner of Blood Spring Community, Real Estate Tycoon, Lord of the Past, Passive, Principal of Blood Moon High School, Passive, and the number 1 hegemon in Nanjiang District. Dungeon Countdown, 30 days. Look at the properties above. Shen Jian emphatically checked the newly obtained titles and achievements. Title, Principal of Blood Moon High School. Equip this title, the player has 100% authority over any parent. Shen Jian was thoughtful. This title is very useful. Whether used to coerce or threaten, cross out, it is extremely useful when used in communication with parents. As for the other one, Shen Jian looked over. Nanjiang District No. 1. The player owns 3 large-scale supernatural dungeons and has activated the qualification to compete in the Nanjiang District hegemony. The winner will become the new Nanjiang District City Lord and gain the right to rule the Nanjiang District. Shen Jian was slightly surprised. Competition. He was a little emotional. If you want to compete in Nanjiang District, the prerequisite is to have 3 large supernatural dungeons. This requirement is so demanding. Those who can participate must be the strongest group of ghosts in Nanjiang District. There is even a ghost king among them. Shen Jian's eyes were moving and shining. And the city lord's wife is probably one of the contestants. Hey, you hit me. At this moment, a complaining voice came from the room. Shen Jian lowered his head. Little Snow Ghost was raising his neck and said angrily. The group account is in the introduction. If you are interested, you can add it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chi Gua. Chapter 149. Hear sounds. Shen Jian lowered his head subconsciously. As expected, he brought this little snow ghost back. This is the first time that he has brought ghosts from the horror world to the real world through the 2-world passage. I couldn't help but take a closer look. Little Snow Ghost noticed Shen Jian's gaze, and his face turned red instantly. He turned sideways and shouted, "Where are your eyes looking at?" Shen Jian looked away. No interest at all. I would like to see it, but it's a pity that you don't have it. Little Snow Ghost? Is this insulting to me? This is absolutely insulting to me. If you don't know how to appreciate it, you men just like that white devil. White devil? You mean the vice principal? Shen Jian was stunned. Humph, don't you guys just like that? That woman used to come to my house every day and hang out in front of me. Little Snow Ghost hummed. His tone was full of dissatisfaction with the vice principal. Shen Jian's heart moved. He also has an invitation letter to the Ice and Snow Castle in his hand, and can enter the supernatural copy at any time. The ghost vice principal seems to know the owner of the Ice and Snow Castle. There is ill intent in your eyes. At this time, Xiaoxiugui suddenly said on guard. Shen Jian came to his senses. Come closer. The little snow ghost was startled. His little face suddenly turned red. The snow-white skin turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his face showed an abnormal blush. You, what are you doing? The little snow ghost hesitated. Holding her skirt, she looked a little nervous. See it? Shen Jian laughed. I have been in the human world for so long without any adverse reactions. This two-world passage is indeed somewhat useful. Okay, you get used to it and go to a place with me later. Shen Jian finished. The figure disappeared into the rental house. Only the sad and angry little snow ghost was left, lying on Shen Jian's bed, sniffing cautiously, not knowing what he was thinking. He kept mumbling. Bring me to the human world and don't care about me. Hades. Shen Jian appeared on the 3rd level of the 18th level of hell. It's all gray here. Everything is in nothingness. Following Shen Jian's thoughts, a large pendulum with a height of 50 meters appeared in the center. The ghost principal and many other campus ghost stories all appear here. At the same time, there were also ghosts with numb and cold expressions. Human, where is this place? Let me go, you have already snatched my copy. The ghost principal became a lot more stubborn at this time. His tone was a bit colder. You still have the nerve to say that you used my money to buy scrap metal like paper clothes. I haven't even settled the score with you yet. Ghost principal. Scrap metal? That was his friend's crowning masterpiece. If he hadn't relied on the relationship between the two and exhausted his family wealth, he might not have been able to get this piece of paper clothing. According to a friend, wearing this paper suit can even temporarily fight against the king of ghosts. It's not that Zai is weak, it's that this human being is too stupid. Even the old people were beaten. Speaking of which, the ghost principal thought of the cruelty of this human being again. His tone couldn't help but weaken. What do you want to do? Shen Jian said silently, please play a game. The ghost principal looked at the big pendulum not far away and couldn't help but sneer, that's it? I stopped playing when I was 3 years old. If you think this can scare me, then you are overthinking. Just try it and you'll know. This will be a brand new version you've ever experienced. As the pendulum rapidly rotated 180 degrees, the ghosts sitting on it each let out frightened screams. Just when they thought it was over, the swing hammered them all away, and then they fell heavily from dozens of meters away. Each one was smashed to a bloody pulp. And because of his supernatural immortality, he stood up again and again. Ghost principal. Damn it, you are not the son of a man. The 3rd level of hell, big pendulum beating hell, already set. Return to the real world. Little snow ghost has fallen asleep on his quilt. The sleeping position is very indecent. Shen Jian made the call. Mr. Shen, Qian Quan's voice came out. How much do you know about deserted village dungeons? Shen Jian got straight to the point. He was very interested in the supernatural events in the deserted village that he saw on the prayer list of the city god's hall. Because this is another invasion of the world of horror by horror games. It has reached the point where the real world is gamified. Mr. Shen, have you noticed it too? Qian Quan was a little surprised, but still said seriously, this is a 2-star dungeon, and it is a mystery-solving type. The scope of the entire dungeon is not large, but the puzzle content is too huge. We sent several groups of members to challenge, but no one survived. In the end, a Samsung player barely escaped and we were able to get some important clues. Shen Jian frowned. A 3-star player barely escaped from a 2-star dungeon? According to the player, the deserted village dungeon is the story of 2 families, one is the elder brother's family, and the other is the younger brother's family. Both families think the other is a ghost. We tried to help both families separately, but the tasks failed. The only consolation is that the dungeon can be detached, unlike horror games where failure means death. Shen Jian listened. Thoughtful. Compared with thriller games, real-world gamification is undoubtedly more humane. You can also leave the instance if the mission fails. That is to say, escape from the deserted village. But in Shen Jian's view, this so-called humanization should be a manifestation of the inability of horror games to fully invade. In this regard, thriller games are also just getting started. Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. You little bitch wants to invade the Yang world. Have you asked me about my plan in the underworld? He had an intuition that by destroying these copies, the invasion of horror games would slow down a lot, and the underworld would have more time to develop stably. I understand. The deserted village dungeon has been blocked by you. Leave me a pass or notice or something. I don't want to be stopped by then. Shen Jian said casually. On the other end of the phone, Qian Quan was shocked and overjoyed. Great, Mr. Shen, if you are willing to contribute, we in Daxia Longke will be grateful. Also, you have helped us solve several major supernatural incidents, especially the Luken incident, and saved a city. We really don't know how can I thank you for your intervention. Then find me a single-family villa with a yard. It should be quiet, preferably one that is haunted. Qian Quan. Find a house that is haunted. As expected of a boss, his brain circuit is just different from others. No problem. Hang up the phone. Qian Quan looked at the information in his hand thoughtfully. That was a supernatural incident involving a married woman. The person involved, Chen Songjiang, claimed that he had gone to the Chenghuang temple to pray, and that night, Shen Jian came. According to the internal relationship analysis of Daxia Longke, there is no intersection between the two. The only indirect point of contact between the two was the city god's temple. In addition, the headquarters judged Shen Jian's identity. He was suspected to be the city god of the underworld. He felt more and more that Shen Jian was the city god. It is the local patron saint of Qingxi. He is also the first known underworld god. Thriller games have invaded, the underworld has descended, and now even the city god has appeared. This world. Qian Quan sighed. Whether it is a thriller game or the legendary underworld, it is a mountain that spans the world of the sun. Humans simply cannot shake it. Can only survive in the cracks. The only good thing is that the attitude of the underworld city god is biased towards humans. This is the only good news. I heard that the city god is only interested in female ghosts. I don't know if the city god will accept some of the beautiful female ghosts I send there. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 150. Huanggang Village. A name that makes people frightened when they hear it. A large number of self-built houses are located here, ranging from 2 or 3 stories low to 7 or 6 stories high. There are also many small rural villas. That's why it's called a deserted village. It's because the young labor force here has left, leaving only the elderly and young children. Now, there are police cordons all over the place. A group of Daxia Dragon Bird members were chatting. Captain, who are we waiting for? You are too grand. We are coming today. Someone told us yesterday that we would wait here. We must entertain them well. A member of the Daxia Dragon Bird team asked curiously. That's a real big shot. We may have to rely on him in the future. Captain Xia revealed a hint of memory. The first time he met Shen Jian was at Longteng Mall. It was the first time he encountered a supernatural event at that time, and he had little experience. If Instructor Qian hadn't invited this great master, Longteng Mall would not have known when it would be unblocked. The second time was the Shijiakan incident. He acted as driver. See another kind of person in this world. The one who controls ghosts. And Shen Jian is undoubtedly the stronger among the ghost masters. Whether King Shi will be stable in the future depends entirely on this person's mood. Hey, I don't know when I will be selected by the thriller game. According to the current trend, if I don't become a player in the future, my life will be precarious. Another member sighed. Captain Xia scolded, if you want to die, just say so. Do you really think that you are the chosen one and can be like a fish in water in a horror game? That is the world of ghosts. Entering it and not being frightened is already a good psychological quality. How many of you have our lives wasted here? But we have received training. Once we enter the horror game, we will have many advantages over normal players. One step first, one step at a time. I believe I can overcome these difficulties. A young boy spoke, his tone full of unwillingness to admit defeat. I can be a big shot, too. Did he? At this time, a taxi came. It's like a truck soaked in water, dripping wet, and has a certain degree of oxidation on the outside, making it look worn and old. This is too low-key. The big shot who kept us waiting all day drove over in a dilapidated taxi. Hey, this should be considered a bad reception. The surrounding Daxia Dragon Bird members were all surprised. There was an uproar. In many eyes, a man and a woman walked down. The man was quite handsome, wearing a white windbreaker, like a medical uniform, with a blood-stained hemp rope tied around his wrist, giving him a very reliable feeling. Women are more dazzling. With snow-white skin, long snow-white hair, and sky-blue eyes, he looked like a character walking out of a painting. There was a strong sense of dissonance, not like a living person. Captain Xia came forward. Mr. Shen, please remember me. I am now the captain responsible for supernatural events. If you need anything, you can always tell us. Also, if we had known that Mr. Shen couldn't get on the bus, we should have sent someone to pick him up. This way, you wouldn't have got into a vehicle with poor performance. He originally wanted a garbage truck, but considering that Shen Jian chose such a car, and scolded it as a garbage truck, he also scolded Shen Jian. So he swallowed his words and thought of another excuse. Ah! I heard it, you were scolding me. The driver's window rolled down. The ghost driver's livid face was revealed. Shen Jian also looked over. He said slowly, although the appearance is a bit worse, the speed is not slow at all. After all, this is a hearse. You can't judge it from its appearance. Damn it, is this a hearse? At first, everyone was still wondering why a big shot of this status would drive a taxi that was about to be scrapped. But when they heard the word hearse, everyone took a few steps back as if they had seen a ghost. Shen, Mr. Shen, stop joking. Cold sweat continued to break out on Captain Xia's forehead. He raised his hand to wipe away the sweat, but the result was more and more. Although he has witnessed supernatural events, but he still couldn't accept the sudden appearance of a hearse in front of him. Isn't this haunted? What? You don't believe it? At this moment, the ghost driver also laughed ferociously. The clothes that were originally neat became wet, and water stains continued to flow under the car. A pair of eyes turned into pure black. It's ferocious and terrifying. Captain Xia was horrified, and his heart was filled with death. The young man who had spoken out earlier was faced with the scene for the first time. He was so frightened that he fell to the ground, his face turned pale and his lips were trembling. A group of members not far away were also frightened, and their feet felt weak for a while. That driver is really a ghost. And this car is also a real hearse. Don't worry, he's just my driver and won't do anything. Shen Jian glanced at the ghost driver. The other party immediately returned to his original state. An honest look. At the same time, he smiled and said, "Don't treat me as a human being, I'm just a ghost, Your Majesty's driver. I won't take action without Your Majesty's order, so you don't need to worry about yourselves. As soon as these words came out, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The look in Shen Jian's eyes suddenly became more respectful. They had previously wondered what it meant to be considered a big shot. Now they know. Let a ghost be your driver. This scene is unforgettable for everyone. That, Mr. Shen. Captain Xia took a moment to calm down, and then asked, crossing the cordon is the scope of the dungeon. I don't know when you plan to take action, so we can cooperate with you. It's here now, of course it's now. Shen Jian said casually. Taking the little snow ghost with me, we set foot into the deserted village. Everyone watched eagerly. Don't know how to react. The ghost driver looked at the desolate scene of the deserted village and took out a ghost cigarette from somewhere. While puffing away the smoke, he shook his head and sighed. It's miserable, it's really miserable this time. Captain Xia was startled. Brother, this ghost driver, you also think it's a bit dangerous, don't you? How about we call Mr. Shen back, in the future? The words have not yet finished. The ghost driver looked over with a strange look on his face. Don't get me wrong, when I say miserable, I mean the ghosts here. Captain Xia. At the same time, after entering the Huangcan police cordon, a scarlet panel emerged. Trigger special copy. Special copy, two families who love each other. Introduction, half-truth and half-falsehood are the most harmful. Main mission, help any family. Current mode, 2 people. Difficulty, 2 stars. A simple panel prompt flashed by. Shen Jian glanced at it. Pay no attention to it anymore. Walked along the path. The further inside we go, the darker it becomes. Little Snow Ghost was a little scared and said, you can just do it yourself. Why do you have to drag me along? And have you noticed that I feel like there are many pairs of eyes staring at me in the dark? Don't be nervous, now is just a sign of the coming storm, it will definitely be more lively later. Shen Jian, the old Shinto. Dragging Little Snow Ghost here was just a whim. I didn't really expect her to be useful. The two left not long ago. A self-built small villa comes into view ahead. The lights were still on, as if someone was still living there. That's not all. In the open space in front of the house, a little boy was lying on the ground, adjusting his posture as if he was playing some game. Take a closer look. It's marbles. Shen Jian showed a bit of nostalgia. Memories from his childhood suddenly come back to life and attack him. It's my turn, I will definitely get into the pit this time. The little boy chuckled. He found his position again and continued to play the marbles, getting closer and closer to the pothole. If such a scene happened in the garden during the day, among a group of children, there would be no violation. Can be placed in the current situation. In a deserted village, late at night, a little boy plays marbles alone. This is a bit creepy. Don't go there, he is. The little snow ghost was about to speak. Shen Jian had strode up, squatted down, and asked with a smile on his face, Kid, what game are you playing alone? The little boy just hit the edge of the pothole and glanced at Shen Jian. Uncle, it's not me, it's us. I'm playing marbles with my friends. Whoever gets the marbles into the hole first wins. Hear this. Little Snow Ghost visibly trembled. The little boy was clearly alone in front of him, but he said he still had friends. Could his friend be a ghost? Huh. Why does this sentence sound so awkward? Marble game? Uncle is the best at it? Can I join you? I have no problem, but uncle, you have to get my friend's permission. The little boy said with a sinister smile. Hear this. Shen Jian shouted into the air, Kids, can I play together? Little Snow Ghost covered his face. However, after waiting for a few seconds, Shen Jian said seriously, Oh, you all agree? That's great. From today on, Uncle will be your friend. Little snow ghost. Little boy. The little boy was slightly startled, and then said nonchalantly, "It's fine if they agree, but Uncle, you will be punished if you lose the game." Shen Jian nodded. "It's normal to accept punishment if you lose the game. Children, let's get started," said. The little boy couldn't wait to throw the marbles. The marble slid all the way and quickly rolled to less than 10 centimeters from the hole. At this distance, as long as Shen Jian throws a marble, he will be able to bounce it into the hole in the next round. It's a sure win. The little boy had a happy face. "Uncle, you seem to be losing." Shen Jian glanced at him. "Are you happy?" The little boy did not hide his sinister smile at this time. "I am very happy when I think that my uncle will be punished." "Then you are happy too early." Shen Jian grabbed a marble. With a flick of a finger, the marbles shot up in mid-air, knocking the little boy's marbles straight away, and then landed steadily near the entrance of the hole. "Little boy, can you still play pinball games like this?" "Really?" The little boy was stunned. He had never played with Shen Jian's skills.